Well, it's here. DC's All-In Special #1 has arrived in comic shops. You can get it at your local comic shop right now. This is a deep dive into the DC All-In Special. Here we go. All right, DC All-In Special is a flip book. The front half of the book is the DC All-In side, and the back half of the book is the Absolute Universe side. Now, if you'll recall, the All-In side is the side that is based on the universe that you and I know and love. It's based on the universe where we get our normal DC comics, and they've been incredibly good since this whole concept of the dawn of DC that came out recently. Now, Dawn of DC has brought us some of the best stories that we've seen out of DC. It's been really an incredible period. Standout books and standout art writers in particular. Tom Taylor on Nightwing just blew our minds. Josh Williamson on Superman has been just extraordinary. And a few others have really come through for us in the end. So here we are. Mark Waid is the other big standout. Mark Waid has been just a ton of fun to read and follow along with, as he always is. But you got that Mark Waid, Dan Mora combo like on World's Finest. And it's just, I mean, you couldn't ask for more, honestly. You could not ask for more. So that's what we've had up to this point, and it's been really extraordinary. So now we're in this DC All-In thing, and it's just jumping in and making the characters who they are. And the writers who were on some of the biggest books and made some even side books, like I've never been a big Nightwing person, but Tom Taylor's Nightwing, I'll read all day long. Well, Tom Taylor's being given much more responsibility. He's being put on bigger books. He's on, I believe he's on Detective. And I'm hoping that he brings some of that introspection and levity that he brought to Nightwing. I'm hoping he brings that to Batman in the main Detective book. So that's what's happening on the All-In side. And the other half is about the Absolute Universe. This is the Darkseid based universe. It's where everything's weighted a little bit harder for our heroes. We talked about this in my last video, but what's happened is these new versions of our characters are sort of like the ultimate versions in Marvel. They're just different. They've had different circumstances and things, but at their core, they're still the heroes that we know and love, and they're just a slightly different version. These are the only two universes in the multiverse. All the rest of the multiverse got cut off during Absolute Power, in Absolute Power 4. So what do we do with this? Let's talk about the All-In section, the part that's about our core DC universe first. Now, cut to our heroes, and you've got Superman and a few others going out and handing out Justice League membership cards. And we're ramping up to this concept of Justice League Unlimited. Justice League Unlimited is going to be a brand new version of Justice League. They have the Watchtower again. There are wings to the Watchtower. There's a Green Lantern wing, and there's a, who knows what else wing, but everybody gets their own little wing of the Watchtower. There's a Speedster wing, I imagine, but you get your Watchtower wings, and everybody's in. Everyone's part of the Justice League. All the superhero people can be in the club, basically, if you're a good guy, and you get a Justice League membership card. And a big player in this, a big player in the whole story is Booster Gold, who's always wanted to be in the Justice League, and this might be his chance to be in the Justice League. Now, he's been part of Justice League, of course, in the JLI run and some other places that you can see. The Giffen DeMatteis runs the Justice League, and he's there, and he's pretty funny. That's where we get the really fun combo of Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, and some of those antics that we love from those characters are from that. But he just really wants to be a part of the Justice League, and he's seen as a general screw up. But Superman thinks more of him, and you'll see what part he plays in all of this in just a little bit. So that's what this whole thing is, and it checks in on some of our favorite characters, some side characters we haven't gotten to see in a while, some of our stalwarts that are back, and you kind of get a good baseline of where everyone is. And it's a pretty joyous occasion, bringing everyone together and saying, right on, here's what we're doing for the Justice League. This is the new concept. Well, towards the end of that part, we have a big bad show up in the form of Darkseid. And there's a battle with Darkseid, and it's a little confusing for our heroes, like, how'd this guy get here? He wasn't invited. We didn't give him a card. And there's a knockdown drag out that they have in the brand new watchtower. And ultimately, they know that there's something off. Like, he's not quite right. He's vibrationally weird, apparently, according to the flashes. So they need to go find where this guy's from. And they send an envoy. I'm not going to give away too many details because I do want you to read it for yourself. They send an envoy to go and check out wherever this Darkseid is from. So then you flip the book over and you read the Absolute piece. And the Absolute piece, it's very Darkseid focused to begin with. And he talks about his constant clash with Superman, how Superman is kind of the core of the main universe, and how he's realized that the deck is a little bit stacked against him because the whole place is built to with a thumb on the scale towards the heroes of the world. But he wants to do something different. So he's into some black magic-y stuff and some dark things that are happening. He has to make some great sacrifices in order to ultimately create a new universe. And it's a new universe that he creates in his own image. He creates the darker sort of universe, the absolute universe. And that one, it's not that it's all evil. It's just the thumb is on the scale of the bad guys, where we have a bit of a default to the heroes when in our world, it's a little bit harder for good to be good in this new universe. So that's what he's building up to. And it introduces a few different characters. It introduces the big three. It introduces Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman, the absolute versions of each of those. And I'll do separate videos on those. I do a little bit more in my previous video if you want to see that. But I've read now Batman and Wonder Woman have been released as previews. They've not quite come out yet as of the time of this review. So that all happens, and you get a good view of exactly what's coming next. And again, by the time you get to the end of that story, you fold it open, and at the end of each thing, the last bubble before you get to the fold out is, I finally have my army. And it says it on the all inside when he's being dispatched by the Justice League. And it says in this absolute version, when he's talking to the person that the Justice League sent over to this other universe to see what this is all about, you kind of see this, oh, I finally have my army. But what I don't get the sense of, I don't get the sense that the big three are like evil versions of the big three. In fact, Batman's very much not that. Wonder Woman is very much not that. Wonder Woman overcame a ton of terrible things in her life and her upbringing and still is a protector of man. So it's just different than you would expect in that way. So I think that he, in this other universe, sort of cultivated a group of people that would be his army. And eventually we're going to have these two groups come together and clash. And I think the hope-filled heroes backed up by the absolute heroes. That's my guess. They haven't told us that, but that's, isn't that what we do? We just sit around and talk about this stuff and say, oh, this is what we're going to do all day. And here's what I think is going to happen. No, here's what I think is going to happen. Who would win in an arm wrestling contest, the Hulk or Superman? I don't know. So that's where I think this is going in the end. So read this book. It's totally worth it. Worth your time. A lot of these specials, I look at these and I'm like, I don't need that one. And this one is one that you should get. Plus, it's a good deal. Like, it's a lot of book for your money. And the artwork is extraordinary. I have a predilection for the brighter, happier sort of things. My favorite characters are Superman and Captain America. So the aspirational heroes. The all inside was just so bright and dynamic. And I've been showing you some visuals as we've gone. You can kind of see what that looks like. And the Darkseid is definitely dark, different art styles, different everything. So absolutely cool stories, sets up everything that's coming, and is going to do a very good job of getting you ready for what kicks off over the next several weeks, which is the launches of these super cool new absolute versions of comics. And the other thing that's coming, I mean, we should not underestimate how awesome it is, these new creative teams that are showing up on our main books. You've got Mark Waid on a weekly Action Comics story. You've got, I think it's Dan Mora on a Superman book with Josh Williamson, and that looks incredible. I've seen the preview of that. So the all-in books there are just looking extraordinary. Green Lantern's kicked off a really cool new set of stories, and it's like a civil war within the Green Lanterns that has been just really neat. I read the special, and I have the first Green Lantern issue ready to read. Tom Taylor has been given a bit of a spotlight on Detective Comics, one of the flagship titles within DC, the namesake comic for DC. So that's really great. I'm seeing these great writers put on more and more marquee books, and I just have such high hopes for this. If you have not been reading DC Comics, maybe you checked out for a while because it wasn't going where you wanted, you didn't see the editorial blah 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 as you needed it, literally this month is the month to jump in. Like the remainder of this year, they will have launches of these new creative teams launching these brand new stories that I think are extraordinary and they've done a great job of. So I'm going to be content bombing you guys with reviews of these things because I think they're so good. I'm more enthusiastic about DC Comics, which is my core favorite comics, the comics of the Super Friends, which got me into loving superheroes in the first place. I've never been more enthusiastic about DC Comics than I am right now. So you're going to get reviews and updates from me way more often than I would normally plan to. And that's just because there's so much coming out right now, such great content. If you're not reading right now, you should be, and absolutely jump right in. That brings me to an important point. If you don't have a local comic shop, consider us as your online version of a local comic shop. At the Multiverse, we have a subscription model. Top thing on the screen, you can sign up for our subscription service. It is absolutely free to you to do that. Or if you just like any of the books that we talk about, including this DC All-In special, you can buy that from us. And it's super simple to find us. We're multiverse.shop, and that would really help us out. Again, we're a local comic shop. We're in Hearst, Texas. You can look us up and see what people think about us. But let us be the online version if you don't have a local comic shop of your very own. If you do, support them and go in and pick up some of these books this month. There's never been a better month. Now is the time to be reading DC Comics. See you next time.